I think it was right. Timing's questionable. We can talk about some of the great managers being on the market, I suppose. And if you believe that Chelsea can win the Champions League, I suppose you make it now. As you've mentioned, I thought lately that this was going to happen. The job was too big. It is unfortunately, because, it really is on the owner, Todd Boehly. This is what happens when you have an owner that has zero idea about football and zero idea about Premier League, and yet has a lot of money. Having said all of that, I think he'll eventually get it right because of the money, because of his ego. But unfortunately, he's damaged a manager, a young manager who probably couldn't say no to the job, right, when he was offered. If it was too early for him, if he's good enough, that's another topic, and it's probably true. But if Todd Boehly comes in and tells me this is a long-term project, I don't believe it. Remember, I said it to you a long time ago that this is Roman Abramovich 2.0. I'm changing that now because he's 5.0. Look, if you look at a long-term project, you don't sack two managers in a season.
In hindsight, do you think he'd regret sacking Thomas Tuchel?
I don't know, because the atmosphere was toxic there because of the players. It's always about the players, right? And when you have an owner like that, especially an owner like that, that probably doesn't know the league well enough, players will sense that. We'll go to him and says, whatever we'll say, he'll probably take, because, you can't tell me that Todd Boehly knew, Graham Potter from Harry Potter, because he didn't. And so, the question is who's advising him? Who's he listening to, right? Because you can say all you want about Roman Abramovich and Maria Granovskaya. I mean, she had some great signings, but she had many bad signings as well. But the timing of everything was great. When you look back at Chelsea and their issues, they identified it right away. They signed a big-time player, or even, think about it, Goose Hitting, interim coaches, Avram Grant, Di Matteo, right? A little bit of luck, and, you can look back and say, where are they now, to some degree? But they got it right. And here's Todd Boehly coming with all that money, trying to, rebuild Chelsea in a way that I can't understand.
We're talking about Todd Boehly here, and obviously the managers that have come in, but you did mention the players. How much responsibility do they have to take for what we've seen of late from Chelsea? How much responsibility over Graham Potter?
Well, of course, players have to do it, but, players will quickly find a way out when they smell that things don't go their way. And, they'll always find a way. A lot of them are young, a lot of them on our long-term contracts. By the way, it's great, because we've talked about the ability of Chelsea to sign players to 5, 6, 7, 8-year contracts. Good luck getting rid of them if they, for some reason, say, I'm going to be Gareth Bale or Hazard, and I'm not leaving at all costs. I'm just going to collect my money. We'll see how that goes in the future for them. But they take responsibility. It's just that, often we hear, all these stars and egos. And when you look at Chelsea, how many true stars do they really have? Really? And why should we be surprised at this and the moves that we see now? What are the expectations? Thiago Silva, the one and the only legitimate one that I can think of, unless you tell me that Raheem Sterling is an unbelievable star, so I'll buy that. Reece James is pretty good, but in terms of stardom and leadership, if I think of Lampard and Terry and Didier Drogba, I think, almost none of them come to that level. Thiago Silva would and still does, but, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Maybe right now then, because think of all that money spent, Janusz. Do you think, though, that there are players in that squad that could go on to be a big star player in that squad? Do you have confidence that there's the potential there? There's all that money spent. There's still some big names there that if things start to go right, their star quality will start to shine.
I think they are, but we were sold, on the fact that it's going to take time. And in time, of course, a lot of those players could. But now the latest moves and reactions tell me that I don't know if these players will get a chance to become stars, right? When it was all happening in January, I look at players like Badiashile or Madueke, they're good players, but, now I've seen them a little bit and they're ways, miles away from that. And in an environment where moves like that are being made, and I think they will continue to be made if, say, Chelsea don't start the season well next year, it makes you wonder, right? You look at somebody like Mudryk. Why did they get him? just because Arsenal wanted him. I mean, I think he's a good player. I think he has a possibility, but I watched him closely in Ukraine and in Champions League. What did he have? 3 or 4 good games? I mean, how are we to say that however much he costs, I forget already because they spend so much money, 80 million, 100 million. How do I know that a player like this will come good and will come good quickly? Because it seems to me that's exactly what the ownership of Chelsea want. They just maybe lied to us.
So let's talk about who replaces Potter right now, because straight away the name Julian Nagelsmann came up and he was a favorite for so many. Would you see him as a fit there? What could he do with these players that Potter didn't?
Yeah, I mean, it's 50-50 now on any manager. I would go for somebody that knows the league a little bit better. Nagelsmann obviously got to let go of Bayern Munich. It was a funny situation there because I think they probably let him go simply because if somehow if he beat Borussia Dortmund the other day, it would be much harder to let him go. But there's some issue of the pitch, which I think can be forgotten. He's young, but there's a question mark about him right now. I mean, I don't want to throw him in the same basket as Thomas Tuchel, but they're similar in that approach, my way or a highway, right? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I don't know if he's the best one, but they better get this right at Chelsea right now, because as I have mentioned, 2 managers already in the season, one very reputable, the other one very, very young. So now it's a question of there's some players on the market. I mean, would you be shocked if somehow Antonio Conte comes back? I don't believe it, but I wouldn't be shocked, because I think that it's very easy to advise Todd Boehly in such a way that he'll buy it. He'll bite, I think. So to me, the bigger question is, who are going to be the people around him? Because there's been so many changes made in the back room, be it a medical stuff, scouting stuff, and all that. And you're still in a situation where we see, at least I don't see a direction at Chelsea right now. And this is a team that's used to clear direction, right? I mean, it was never a question mark what's going to happen if a form drops off or if the results don't go their way. Right now, I can't even begin to tell you who they may be thinking about. I mean, Nagelsmann's as good as any, right? I mean, Luis Enrique, wow. I mean, that would be a shock going from La Liga here. So I don't know. Pochettino still seems to me like the safest choice. There was a project at Spurs. He saw it through, didn't win in the end, but came close in the Champions League as we know it. I think, made Spurs a better team. They made them a player at the very least. And I think, obviously a player that knows how to work with young players, not afraid of a project. It seems to me that he'll be the safest. I'm not saying that he's the right choice.
Okay, but it sounds to me as though you are saying that that's the kind of profile they need with the player pool that they've got right now.
Yes, because I mean, I think at least with Pochettino on surface, you get a little bit of everything. Know-how, because he's been in this situation before. He's been in a situation with an owner that didn't necessarily spend money. It makes you wonder that with a little bit of money right now, and I'm sure if Pochettino or anybody else asks for more, he's going to get it. That's why I mentioned Conte, because the perfect situation. He can ask for anything he wants. And that's where he thrives. So the balance with Pochettino is that he has seen a project through to a large degree. So yeah, I mean, from the player or coaches that are being mentioned, he sounds good.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis, and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.